When I'm quilting, I tend to keep a piece of fabric, usually a piece of muslin or any sheet fabric, anything that I really, not a really nice piece of fabric, just some piece that I can use as a base, close to my ironing board, and I will spray baste it, and then as I cut pieces, I just keep adding on until I have covered it with all these little scraps. Once that is done, I'll just maybe hold it down with a little bit of free motion stitching just to hold the pieces down like this until I can decide what I want to do with it. Sometimes I will put a piece of batting and backing and quilt it and add embroidery stitches, as in this case. Okay. And that leaves it all ready for a project. Especially, I like to make a lot of pencil cases, and so I already have a quilted piece ready to go, and with all the embroidery stitches, it's pretty much embellished. Sometimes I will add some couching and other decorative threads. Sometimes it's just little scraps like this, and sometimes it's just strips. In any case, after I have used these projects, I often am left over with pieces from this too. And so for that is what the basis of our project for today will be. So in a case like this piece is not quite big enough to make it might be for a small case or something, but sometimes the leftover piece is just not big enough for anything, but I've worked on it enough that I don't want to throw it away. In this case, this piece is not, it doesn't have any backing or batting on it. It just has a little piece of interfacing to stabilize the piece as I was stitching on it. So I'm going to make some ornaments out of this. The first thing we're going to do then is cut 2 strips from our leftover collage. Add 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch more to that width, so you have some room with which to work. And then we will fuse those 2 strips together. And you can use any of the different fusible webs on the market, whatever it is that you like. Okay, so I have fused my 2 strips, and so now I'm going to trim them and cut them into squares. Once again, this all depends on the size that you personally would like to have. Any size, can be 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever size you really like. Okay, in this case, I'm cutting mine 1 1/4 inch. So if you've ever made inchies before, you know that the best thing is then to finish off the edges. And so we're going to finish these off with a satin stitch. So I have my satin stitch set at a width of 3.5 millimeters. I don't want it too wide. And it's not going to be very tight satin stitch. I'd prefer to go over it twice. But this is something that you can experiment with and see what width you like and what length. Rid of these threads. Okay, so you can decide if you want to go over it once or twice. For me, this is good enough. Ready to embellish. Okay, so the first thing that I have done here is tack on a piece of ribbon to be able to hang my ornament. I just cut a length and looped it and just tacked it here. And as far as embellishing this ornament, you might just decide that you like it that way, or there are many, many possibilities. It all depends on what you like. You could just go with something very simple like a button, or then, buttons, sort of novelty buttons, odd-shaped buttons. The sky pretty much is the limit. Or you might have like Christmas buttons, like a snowflake. Or you might want to go with just some beads in some kind of arrangement that you like. You could opt for some specialty beads too, like this little leaf here. It's a crystal leaf. Or some metal findings. That. Or maybe a Christmas star of some kind. Or you might choose perhaps some sequins. And with the sequins, you might decide to put a little bead on too. I am really lucky that I live in a country where we have tagua readily available. Tagua is vegetable ivory. So I'm thinking that that's what I'm going to embellish my little ornament with. And so I will just tack that on there. If you decide to make very small squares, like an inch or inch and a quarter, inch and a half, you might decide that you would like to make a slightly bigger ornament, so you could string a couple together. And once again, embellish them if you like, or string even more. And if you want, just leave them with the stitching that they had originally. Don't add any further embellishments, whatever you like. I hope you've enjoyed this project.